I cannot express the importance and the significance of this specific topic at this point in time, especially in the US and many other similarly situated countries. This is a bigger problem than anybody is talking about right now. So let's dive into it a little more. Hey guys, this is Calvin Williams with Impruver Technologies, and this is Feature Highlight. In this Feature Highlight conversation, we're going to talk about the ever important topic of knowledge management and how Impruver can help your company to achieve and sustain outstanding business results through the effective practices of knowledge management. In this talk, we'll cover 4 key topics. What is knowledge management? Why is it important? What are some of the common practices currently used? And how do you increase the effectiveness of your knowledge management efforts? I cannot express the importance and the significance of this specific topic at this point in time, especially in the US and many other similarly situated countries. This is the crisis of my lifetime. This is the crisis of my career, and anyone my age or younger especially. I think even older folks are impacted in the sense of the stability of our economy, the stability of our government, our nation really as a whole. So your 401k. So let's dive into it a little more. So what is knowledge management? KM, we'll call it KM. KM is essentially a systematic approach to maximizing the effectiveness of decision making in order to produce the best possible business results. If you look at the KM model, and let me put a disclaimer out there, there's really no fixed or well-defined KM model out there. But when most of us talk about knowledge management, this is the kind of thing we're talking about. You got somebody here who has knowledge, some expertise, and then you got somebody on this side who is about to make a decision, right? And the idea is that the knowledge would transfer from that person to that person at the right time, in the right quantity, and of the right quality, right? So that the best possible decision can be made here, which enables the best action to be taken, which ultimately produces the best possible business result. It starts with transferring knowledge. It ends up with really good business results. So ultimately, that's what we're going for here. Now, as I said before, there's really no defined model for change management. This is the general idea. Part of the reason for that is because knowledge itself, and the nature of knowledge and the way we handle knowledge and the way we apply knowledge is a little tricky. And there's a couple of things I'm calling out here. You can build this list out even further if you want, but I'll just call out a couple of key ones. Number one is the time value of knowledge. This is a big one, right? So here's an event or decision, this vertical orange line here. The time you need the knowledge is before that event happens. But the time you're going to have the knowledge is after the event happens. After something happens is when you have the most complete view of everything you need to know. And if you would have known that in advance, you probably could have produced a much better outcome overall. Hindsight is 2020. That's certainly true. The other piece about knowledge that makes KM a little challenging is knowledge is constantly being created. So if you look at this end, you see, you have knowledge is most relevant around the time where you're going to apply it. But over time, knowledge becomes obsolete, right? At one point, we said the earth was flat. And at that time, that was useful knowledge. People used that knowledge to make decisions and, they survived. So it worked for them. But over time, knowledge becomes obsolete. And at the same rate that knowledge is becoming obsolete, new knowledge is constantly being created. So a best practice, a good practice is to constantly be contributing new knowledge to your knowledge library, assuming you have one. And if you don't, let's start to work on that because we need that. We need that soon. The other part that makes knowledge complicated is that there's a gap between what we know and what we do, right? If there wasn't a gap, then we'd all be the smartest people on the planet and the most beautiful and the most healthy and all those wonderful things. But the reality is what we know is not always what we do. And our behaviors are driven by a lot of other things, including, force of habit, what we're comfortable with, extenuating circumstances. Okay. And then the last part is retention, how we retain knowledge, how we retain information. People retain knowledge best when it's tied to an emotional state. If someone just comes to you, out of the blue, out of nowhere and says something to you, most likely if you're not in an extreme or at least a heightened emotional state, you're probably not going to retain that information, right? On the other hand, if somebody asks you what was the best day of your life or what was the worst day of your life, there's a good chance that those type of memories are going to sustain, okay? And you're going to remember those things. The whole field of PTSD sort of fits in this category, right? You got someone who had a traumatic event in their life and they just can't even forget that event. Even when that knowledge, that information is not relevant, it just enters their mind and they can't push it out. So that's the reality of the way knowledge works, okay? All right, so with all that said, why is KM important? And there's two big reasons. And the number one reason is what I feel is an imminent threat, an imminent problem for the US and many other countries. It's business continuity, right? And business continuity is built on old knowledge, what we already know, because the business is sustaining, it's thriving. If we just transfer old knowledge effectively, we can continue to thrive. The other piece is growth. And this growth is based on new knowledge. Growth is based on this piece. So if we're great at this, then we can actually experience growth as well. All right, so let's talk about that a little deeper though. In the US, 47% of the workforce is 55 or older. When I say we are in a state of crisis, I cannot overstate that. We are in a state of economic crisis. 55 or older, meaning within the next 10 years, 47% of the workforce will transition out, assuming 65 age of retirement, okay? Give or take. 47% of the bodies, that's just bodies that are in our companies, American companies today, will be transitioning out of the workforce. That's not 47% of the knowledge though. I would estimate that that's at least 85% of the knowledge that exists today in our companies, American companies, will be transitioning out of the company and being replaced by more inexperienced workers. This is a state of crisis when it comes to business continuity. This could potentially result in other countries overtaking the US as an economic powerhouse in the world. Absolutely. This is a bigger problem than anybody is talking about right now. It's this piece right here. And in America, you got a unique situation where you got a big demographic of baby boomers, a big demographic of millennials. These are the two biggest demographics. And then you got a smaller demographic of Generation Xers. And then, of course, the Generation Z folks haven't entered the workforce yet. So the reality is somehow we got to get the knowledge from the baby boomers into the millennials and the younger generations. And then there's us in the middle. Yes, this is the biggest existential crisis that we will face in our lifetime. And in fact, mark my word, in 10 years, we're going to look back and some giants are going to fall because of this thing, right? You're going to see a completely different landscape in the way America does business and the way the American economy works because of this thing. Mark my word. If I'm wrong, if my knowledge is bad, I want you to hold me accountable. Let me know 10 years from now. We'll have this conversation again. So essentially what you want to drive, though, is if you look at results over time, if you got poor knowledge management practices in place now, what you're going to see is a dip in results, a dip in performance, and hopefully you can climb out of that. This is the result of bad knowledge management practices. Good knowledge management, on the other hand, though, you're going to have a much lower dip. You're probably going to see something, right? There's something that comes with the change and the change management of demographics. And ultimately, you just want to try to sustain performance. That's business continuity. On the other side of that is growth, right? So if you got poor knowledge management practices, you got those same two charts here, your performance is going to dip pretty dramatically. And then you can stabilize. You get to a point where you stop the bleeding and then you can start to grow. Suboptimal situation. This is not where you want to be working from. You want to be working from something like this where you don't take too much of a hit and then you can apply what's called new knowledge to increase and continue to grow. This is the trajectory that you want to be on. And the way to stimulate new knowledge, the way to stimulate that growth is through innovation, research and development, experimentation. As you're probably well aware, when your company is hitting this pit right here, these are the first kind of things to get cut. So you want to try to avoid this if at all possible. And this isn't just going to happen at a company level. This is going to happen at a whole US economy level. So yes, if you're a leader right now, if you're a leader in the company right now, if you're an experienced worker in the company right now, the best thing you can do for me, my generation and younger generations is, yes, we love coaching, we love mentorship, but we need you to document everything you know. We need you to turn on your video cameras and record everything you know. With that said, let's talk about some of the commonly used practices for knowledge management. Okay. Remember, the purpose of knowledge management is business continuity, growth, but it's really another way of saying we want to continue to generate great business results. Generate or continue to generate great business results. Okay. And those results are a reflection of our decisions, everyday decisions that we make. Some of us are making 1 million decisions a week. Some of them decisions are unconscious. Some of them are conscious, some big, some small, but there's a lot of decisions being made, and those decisions are creating results. With every result, there are several factors that weigh in, right? There is the decision. Yes, that's just one piece of the puzzle. But there's also a bunch of knowledge and conditions that are out there that are impacting the results that are being produced. Think back to 4th grade chemistry class where you're learning science, where you're controlling for every other factor and you're only changing one factor and seeing how that affects the results. Well, the same is true for knowledge and the way it works around creating business results. Let's talk about the different categories. There's what you know. There's the knowledge you can create or imply. It's wet. It's coming out of a faucet. I can imply that it's water, right? This depends on which faucet we're talking about, but yes, that's water. Okay. There's what you know you don't know. You have some level of awareness, but you don't know the exact details. Probably you got to research that. There's what you don't know that you don't know. And then that's what you're wrong about, right? You think you know, but you're actually wrong. So all of these are conditions or inputs that affect results in combination with your decision. With that said, let's talk about the role that experience plays in producing increasingly better results. The boxes at the top are things that actually produce good results. So knowing and being able to imply are positive things that produce good results. Knowing what you don't know, that's kind of on the fence, because if you know you don't know it and you're responsible, you're going to go find out, right? The things at the bottom are things that are bad for results, right? Don't know you don't know, that's dangerous. Wrong about, that's dangerous. Both of those are bad for results. What experience does is it grows the top boxes. It increases what you know, increases what you can imply, and then makes you more aware of what you don't know. And then it shrinks what's on the bottom. This starts to shrink down, and then the things that you're wrong about also start to become less and less of a factor with experience. And the objective is to accelerate the rate of experience, accelerate the growth of the good things and shrinking the bad things, right? That's the idea. And there are techniques you can apply to accelerate that process. So here's a couple of ideas that you can start applying today, right? For things you know you don't know, and the things that you don't know that you don't know, obviously having a good training program in place, onboarding program in place, study and research. If you know you don't know it, you can go study it, you can go research it. And then mentorship. That's having someone there to kind of help you from a longer term point of view, develop your capability, your understanding, how knowledge applies and that kind of thing. These things are great and work really well when you already have an inventory of knowledge or a knowledge library, right? So if you have this, could be, PowerPoint decks, could be Excel sheets, could be standard work documents, could be what we call video standard work, which is a feature that's included in Impruver. We'll talk to you about that in a second. It could be a various ways of documenting knowledge. And then for the things that you're wrong about, in some cases, some rare cases, you could just tell someone they're wrong and then they'll change their knowledge, right? They'll acquire the new knowledge. In my experience, in most cases, that it's not the way it happens. What needs to happen when people think they know something and they don't, they just need experience. They need proof. They need evidence to see that what they believe is actually false. And coaching also helps. Coaching helps to get the most value from their experiences, extract the knowledge from experiences so that future experiences can go better. There is no substitute for experience when it comes to developing knowledge, developing talent, transferring knowledge and that kind of thing. So ultimately, you want to push experience. And if you can accelerate the experience process, if you can give people exposure to more things at a faster pace, if you can grow these top boxes and shrink these bottom boxes at a faster pace, then you can transfer knowledge and wisdom at a faster pace as well. All right, a few things you can do to increase the effectiveness of your knowledge management. The number one technique you got to get down, the number one thing that is critical for effective knowledge management is organizing learning and knowledge transfer around events and actions and decisions, right? And this keeps knowledge transfer to be relevant, because just dumping a bunch of irrelevant knowledge on someone doesn't really help them that much. They're probably not going to retain much, and it's probably going to make them overlook the things that they really should be looking at. So it's really important to feed knowledge and time knowledge in a way that's most relevant for the person you're transferring knowledge to, right? A lot of folks think of knowledge management as let's collect all the knowledge, but a bunch of knowledge sitting in a database that's not being applied, it's not really an asset for your business. When it's applied, then it actually appreciates the value of your business. It actually helps. So it's key to organize knowledge transfer and learning around actions, decisions, events. As with everything that we talk through, fits within the PDCA framework. So as you plan, you want to make sure that the desired outcomes is aligned with the strategy. And the key there is that you need to be clear on the desired outcome. Like, we're going to make a decision, we're going to commit an action. What is it that we anticipate that we're going to get out of this action? And that anticipated result should be in alignment with the company strategy. It's not just sustaining what we always did, it's actually moving the company toward what we want it to be. The next thing you do is make a prediction. Make predictions on how it's going to come out, and state those predictions out loud even, right? That way you create a hypothesis, and then you can test that hypothesis. And in the testing of a hypothesis is where you learn what you really didn't know. Right? And you can't hide from the fact that you said it was going to rain tomorrow and it didn't, right? That exposes that you didn't know something, and then it gives you an opportunity to learn at a faster pace. So yeah, make predictions, hypothesize, then see what actually happens. And from those experiences, you can actually learn at a faster pace. A good tool for doing these things is called Fmea, Failure Mode Effect Analysis. And what you're doing with Fmea is you're trying to list out everything you know, don't know, need to know, the risk and the likelihood associated with those events. And then you can take mitigating actions if necessary, but it really helps you map out or document what you actually know and what you actually don't know. So it's a deliberate process. It's really good. The next phase execute the plan as designed. See what happens. Try not to intervene. If you can avoid intervening in the middle of the plan, avoid it, because that also highlights what you didn't know. And that's what you want to bring out from every experience, is what you didn't know, so you can learn from that. In some cases, you can get away with that. In some cases, you can't. If you can't get away with it, if you must intervene, if you must deviate from the plan, make sure you capture why you're deviating. And if it's for a big enough reason, share that, publish that knowledge. Hey, this is what we were going to do. We realized like halfway into it that this would have been a disaster. We had to deviate, and here's why. You guys better watch out for the same thing. Check. Here's where you validate your prediction. Like I said, we said it would rain tomorrow. It didn't rain. You validated your prediction. This is where you also highlight what you knew and what you didn't know, right? It confirms what you knew was right. It also highlights that these other things we thought were true were actually not true. So what went as planned, what didn't go as planned, you're really just trying to bring your knowledge gaps to the surface. This is a big part of knowledge management. It's closing knowledge gaps, right? And then the last piece is act. This is, you go into reflection, after action review. What went well? What didn't go well? What do we want to try differently next time? What were the key learnings from that experience? Root cause analysis. This is a powerful knowledge transfer tool. It's a powerful knowledge management process, because this also feeds into the creation of knowledge, right? What everybody thought was the root cause of an issue, through root cause analysis, you can validate whether that was true or false, right? And obviously trying and executing and experimenting helps to validate those learnings as well. But yeah, that's a big piece of it. And I can't overemphasize the importance of root cause analysis in using hindsight to capture learnings from experiences. Last but certainly not least, document and publicize learnings. I cannot overstate the importance of documenting and publicizing learnings via standard work, via how-to videos, PowerPoint decks, training classes, training modules, anything you can use to document your knowledge and then just make it available, right? You don't have to necessarily push it out, or if people are interested, they'll pull it in, but you need to make it available so that when they're ready, it's there for them. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about Impruver and how this technology helps improve your knowledge management efforts and make your knowledge management efforts more effective. So Impruver has a couple of key features that are already available and in the pipeline to help with this problem. Like I said, this is one of the biggest problems that are going to affect my lifetime, or anyone my age or younger, and even older than me. So this is the biggest threat facing the US economy and other countries in a similar situation. First thing we have is called video standard work. This is where experienced folks can actually create a short how-to video and then break that video down into steps that other younger folks who are going to be completing the same processes can use to understand the steps involved in the process, have a video there where they can see it, and it's a really neat tool and very powerful. The other one we have is called Predecessor Connect. That's where a predecessor, someone who used to do the job, can connect via internet to their successor and coach them through the best practices of executing the job. The successor, or the new person doing the job, is going to be equipped with a headset, a camera, earpiece and a microphone, and they'll be talking to their predecessor who can see and hear everything that the user can see and hear. So it's a really powerful tool. We'll probably even set that up where predecessors can make some extra income by coaching new employees to achieve better business results in less time. The other piece though, and this is to me the most powerful piece, this is the most powerful thing to accelerate the learning process. On our action management execution board, for every action you complete, it allows you to see where you were before from a percentage standpoint. Let's say you're tracking efficiency. You're at 58% before you completed this action. After completion, you're at 75%. You still got a ways to go if your goal is 85%. So yeah, it shows the true business effect of the actions that you take as a process owner, or as a leader of a specific area of responsibility. So that's immensely powerful, because by clearly drawing that cause and effect relationship, it accelerates the learning process, or the understanding of how the behavior of the process owner or your behavior is affecting the results the business is getting. So tying those two together is immensely powerful. Of course, Impruver includes root cause analysis features. So after an event, after something happens, after something goes wrong in specific, or even just diving into how to reduce losses of a specific process, root cause analysis is a powerful tool to identify, the contributing factors behind what's driving losses, facilitates the experimentation process, it facilitates Kaizen. So yes, you can really capture and understand what you know, what you don't know, and what's driving your losses. Those are just a few features. Of course, there are more. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all at impruver.com, impruver.com. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to engaging with you soon. Have a great day. Thanks.